All right, so today we're going to be talking about solving rational equations. So we're going to be putting together some of the things that we've already learned in order to do this. So we spent the last 2 days spending a lot of time determining what common denominators are, right, with these rational expressions. So we're going to be using that to help us solve. How many of you know what a proportion is? A proportion. Yeah, when you have one fraction set equal to one fraction, right? How did you solve proportions? Cross multiply. Good. So we're going to use that as well. It just depends on what the rational equation looks like. That's okay. So it'll depend on what the rational expression looks like, rational equation looks like, to what we'll use to solve it. Okay. So let's look at the next page. Very quickly, tell me what my common denominator is. Awesome. 15t squared. Any problems, questions, concerns with that? Good. All right, so let's look at our first one. Yeah, in a second. Next one. What is this? We just talked about it. What's it called? It's a proportion. Good. So how would I go about solving this proportion? Great, cross multiply. Okay, so that's how we're going to solve this first one. So since this is an equation, my goal at the end of this is to find out what x is equal to. Okay? You got to keep in mind, when we figure out what x is equal to, we have something called, I've forgotten my words. Great job. Why am I, restriction. We have a restriction, right? What do we talk about restrictions doing? Why do we have restrictions? X can't be 0. Well, x can be 0. What can't be 0? The denominator of any fraction can't be 0 because it makes the function what? Undefined. Now, there was a special word that went along with that. No, we do reject the answer, but it was a special kind of solution. Extraneous solution. Thank you. That's the word I could not remember. All right, so we have those extraneous solutions. If that occurs, then we reject. So that means we're obviously going to make sure that we check every single one of our solutions, right? Okay, so let's start with cross multiplication here. So let's start with a 5. What am I multiplying 5 by? And we're going to go ahead and put it in parentheses, and we'll distribute it after. Equals, it does not turn into another fraction, as I've seen many of you do on many occasions. Good, 15 times the quantity 2x minus 2. Great. Now what? Okie dokie, distribute. 5x squared minus 5 equals 30x minus 30. Good, I want to get it all on one side. Why? To get it set equal to 0, because it's a what? Quadratic, right? If it's a quadratic, chances are you want to get it set equal to 0 so that you can solve it, probably by factoring. So we want to get everything to one side, left or right? Let's go left. Good. So I'm going to subtract over the 30x. Is there any other x over here to combine with? Nope, so we're just going to bring it over. And we're going to add over 30. 30 plus a negative 5 is going to give me 25. Is everybody okay with that? Yeah, so I'm adding 30. 30 plus a negative 5 gives me my positive 25. Yep, thank you. Okay. Now what? Great, what's my GCF? Okay. So what goes in my parentheses? Good. Am I done? Why? How's it factor? Good, negative 1, negative 5. Two numbers that multiply to be a positive 5, add to be a negative 6. Great. Now what? Good, I want to take everything, set it equal to 0. What is that called? It's a rule. What's it called? Zero product rule. Yeah. Okay, so we take each factor, and each one of these is a factor, and we set them equal to 0. I guess I don't need parentheses. That's just a habit of mine. Okay, each factor gets set equal to 0. And 5 is a factor, isn't it? Yeah. But is 5 ever going to equal 0? So that gets rejected. We're not even going to worry about that. Okay, so we get x to equal and x to equal. Good. Positive 1. Thank you. Okay, so we get 5 and 1. What do I have to do? Good. So the next page is a calculator page. I want you to store x and store 1 and check both of those solutions to see if they check. Okay, and we'll look at it in just a second. Okay, so what happened here, guys? Did 5 work? Yes. What about 1? Yeah, you got that undefined equals undefined, right? So do I want undefined functions? So what do I have to do with x equals 1? Reject it. Good. So my only solution is 5. Does it happen to be what? No, it gets a little bit harder. Sorry. Okay? Are we ready to try another one? All right. So here's your next example. After that. So I want you guys to go ahead and give this a shot. Okay? Cross multiply, solve it out, and check your solutions. The bottom half of this page is a calculator page for you to check on. Okay, so you don't even have to turn the page. It's right there. So I'll give you a few minutes. Give it a shot. Okay, so we're going to start by cross multiplying. And this is going to be 15 times x plus 2. Are you all okay with that? Okay. Distribute. You get this far? Is it a quadratic? No. So this is just a simple equation, okay? We want to get all the x's to one side, everything else to the other. Okay, so which way do I want to move the negative 4? Do I want to leave it or bring it over? Yeah, let's bring that 4x over and subtract the 30. Are you guys okay with that? Okay, so we get negative 38 equals 19x. Good. So I get x equals negative 2. How many of you got negative 2? Awesome. What happened when you checked it? Yeah, so what do I have to do with it? Right, I have to reject that. It's undefined. Makes my function undefined. So I have no solution. So it's either empty braces or the empty set. Null set. Yes, but as long as you know those mean no solution, because if it's a multiple choice, that's what they're going to put. They're not going to write no solution. Okay. Go ahead and try the next one. Okay, when we cross multiply, negative 2, x minus 4, 2x squared minus 2, right? So a lot of you make the same mistake when we distribute it through this negative 2. You got to watch your signs, guys. What's a negative times a positive? Negative. What's a negative times a negative? Positive 8. A lot of you made that mistake, about half of you. Okay, so please be cautious with that. Okay, over here we get 2x squared minus 4. All right, is it a quadratic? So I want to do what? Get it set equal to 0. Am I going to move things to the right or the left? To the right. Why? Yeah, I don't want to make that x squared negative, so I'm going to move everything over to the right so it stays positive. Okay? So I'm going to add 2x. Is there a 2x to add it to? Or any x to add it to? Okay. I'm going to subtract 8. Is there a like term? There it is. Okay. So I have 2x squared, negative 4 minus 8. Negative 12. Good. Do I like that order? Just put it in descending order. Doesn't matter what side the zero's on. Are we okay with this? Now what? What's my GCF? Good. Are we okay? Good? Okay, now what? How does that factor? x plus 3x minus 2. Good. Okay, so what's x equal? And, all right, so those are our options, right? Did you check them both? Do they both check? So our solutions are -3, 2. Okay? Questions? Yep. Okay, so are they always going to be proportions? No. Sometimes it's going to be sum or difference, okay, of rational expressions. So we wind up with something that might look like this. 4 over x minus 3 over x plus 1 equals 1. Now, I know that in order to add or subtract fractions, I need a what? Common denominator, right. We've spent the past 2 days determining what our common denominators are. So looking at this, tell me what my common denominator is. Think before you speak. Say it again. Say it. Yeah, x times x plus 1, right? Is this the same as this? No, you've got to have them both. They're totally different factors, okay? So there's our common denominator, okay? So we're going to show you step by step how to do this. All right, so essentially what the goal is, bless you, somebody's sneezing. What the goal is to get rid of the fractions. I don't want to deal with fractions, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to use that common denominator to make this into just a simple polynomial instead of a rational equation, okay? So you guys told me my common denominator was going to be what? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to multiply every single term here by our common denominator, okay? So I'm going to have x times x plus 1 times 4 over x, okay? I'm multiplying everything here by the common denominator that we're going to use. Everything. Okay, every single term is getting multiplied by that common denominator. And something nice is going to happen here. When we're multiplying, we know that we can cancel things diagonally and up and down, right? So if I look at my first term here, what's going to cancel? Yeah, those x's cancel. Come on. And what am I left with? Yeah, 4 times x plus 1, right? Minus, let's go to the next one. What cancels? Good, 3 times x equals. What cancels? Nothing, so I have to have it all. So do you see how we went from fractions to no fractions? That's the goal. Do we want to work with fractions? No. Preferably not. So this is a nice, easy way to do that. As long as you can determine what the common denominator is of all 3 denominators, okay, you can change it to get rid of those fractions. What do we do now? Good. 4x plus 4 minus 3x, x squared plus x. All right. Sure. We can have x plus 4 equals x squared plus x. That's fine. Subtract the x. What happens when I subtract the x? Yep. 4 equals x squared. Yeah, you can take the square root of 4, but here's the thing with that. If you're going to take the square root, you have to remember that when you take the square root, it's always plus and minus. Always. And that's going to be a sticking point for this class, because in all of your other classes, when you took the square root of 4, it was always just 2, right? It's always positive and negative when you take the square root. So the other way you could have done this, instead of taking that square root, was we could have continued to get everything to one side. Subtract that 4. What happens here? Yeah, factors, x plus 2x minus 2. So you would get x equals minus 2 and x equals positive 2. Isn't that what we just had with the square root? So that's why you get that plus and minus. Okay? Nope. Either way, you can do it using square roots, or you can do it by factoring. All right, so what are you going to make sure you do? Go ahead. Okay, good. They do both check, so our solution is -2, +2. You guys doing okay? Nope, this is pretty much. So let's take a look at the next one. Okay, so the next one's just, it's a word problem, but I give you the equation, so don't freak when you have to read. Aerodynamics. The aerodynamic covering on a bicycle increases a cyclist's average speed by 10 minutes per hour. The time for a 75-mile trip is reduced by 2 hours. What is the average speed for the trip using the aerodynamic covering? Okay, so I've got this nice equation here for us. I want us to solve for t. Okay, so you need to determine what your common denominator is going to be. Are you paying attention? Figure out what your common denominator is going to be, multiply it all the way through, and then solve for t. Okay, so give it a shot. Okay, what's your common denominator, guys? Yep, t times t minus 2. Got to have them both, they're not the same. So we're going to multiply everything here by t times t minus 2. T times t minus 2. Oops. T times t minus 2, right? What cancels here? What cancels here? What cancels here? Good. We're good so far? Okay, so this becomes 75t equals 75 times plus 10 times okay? You gotta know how to find common denominator. What am I going to do next? Yeah, let's distribute. 75t minus 150 plus 10t squared minus 20t. Good. Now what? I don't need to do that yet. Yeah, what happens when you have 75t on both sides? Sure. So we get 10t, yep, 10t squared minus 20t minus 150. And all I did was put it in descending order. Okay so far? How'd I get t squared? T times t. Gotta distribute. All right, now what? Good. What's my GCF? T squared. Good. T squared minus 2t minus 15. Again, how do we get that? Yeah, you take that GCF and divide it by everything that's into everything that's up here. That's what gives you what's in those parentheses, okay? Good. T minus 5, t plus 3. So I get t equals 5, t equals -3. And they both check. Are we getting the hang of this? Again, you have to know how to get a common denominator. If you don't, you're not going to be able to do this. Okay? When in doubt, have one of everything. Every denominator. If you don't know, then have everything. It'll all cancel out eventually. Okay? Can I move on? Is the bell going to ring? Okay, your homework is page number 8. Please make sure you do it. Your weekly project, you should be able to do 1 through 6 and 10. The other stuff we'll learn tomorrow, and it's super easy. You could probably do it now anyways, okay? So please make sure that gets done by Friday. Again, these weekly projects are take-home quizzes. It's a quiz grade. You can come in and have me check it. Nobody should be failing weekly projects, and I had quite a few that did this week. Don't do it again, okay?